The average helicopter carries troops at roughly 150 knots. The V-22 Osprey moves at 305 knots at altitude. That is not an upgrade. That is a different category of threat entirely. So here is the question nobody seems to be asking. If this aircraft is that fast, that long-ranged, and that lethal, why does the public still think of it as a troubled experiment? You've been looking at it wrong. To understand why the Osprey is a problem for any enemy commander, you have to understand the physics that make it possible. A conventional helicopter generates lift and thrust from the same rotor. That is an elegant solution to a hard problem, but it is also a ceiling, structurally, aerodynamically, a ceiling on what rotary wing aircraft can ever be. The V-22 discards that constraint. Its two proprotor nacelles tilt through 90 degrees. At takeoff, it rises vertically like a helicopter. Once airborne, conversion to forward airplane flight takes only 12 seconds, and the wings become lift effective between 100 and 120 knots. At that transition point, the rotors stop fighting gravity and start conquering distance. This is not a helicopter that learned to go fast. This is an entirely new class of aircraft, one that happens to hover, and that distinction is what makes it dangerous. In any contested insertion scenario, range is not a convenience. It is a tactical weapon. The increased range and speed characteristics inherent to the tiltrotor concept significantly improve en route survivability. With effective mission planning, the V-22 is able to use its range advantage to circumvent en route threats entirely. Combined with very low-level tactics that exploit terrain masking, the increased flight speed provides far less opportunity for a surface-to-air threat system to acquire and fire. Think about what that means operationally. A conventional assault helicopter must fly through the threat envelope to reach its objective. The Osprey, launched from a ship positioned well beyond the horizon, can vector around radar coverage, drop below detection altitude, and appear at an objective that an enemy never considered reachable. The CV-22 can travel 500 nautical miles at or below 500 feet above ground level, locate a small landing zone, infiltrate and exfiltrate a team of 18 Special Operations Forces, and return to base. At night, in adverse weather, covertly, the 500 nautical miles. That is the distance from Washington, D.C. to Detroit. One way, at treetop level, in the dark. No forward base, no prepositioning, just a window of 12 minutes on the ground and a machine that was never supposed to be there. Speed and range get the force to the objective. But what happens on the approach? Currently, CV-22 and MV-22 Ospreys are being retrofitted with the Interim Defensive Weapon System, the IDWS, a belly turret from BAE Systems housing a 3-barrel 7.62mm GAU-17 minigun. This is not a door gun bolted on as an afterthought. The IDWS is a retractable system, stowed during cruise, deployed during approach and extraction, capable of covering the threat axis directly beneath the aircraft where the crew is most exposed. The GAU-17 in this configuration fires at a cyclic rate of up to 4,000 rounds per minute. At the speeds the Osprey operates, the engagement window for any ground threat is measured in seconds. The turret narrows that window further. It does not make the Osprey a gunship. What it does is ensure that the last 30 seconds of an insertion are not a one-sided conversation. Now consider the scenario that every threat planner hopes for: a single engine hit. The V-22's two Rolls-Royce AE1107C engines are connected by drive shafts to a common central gearbox, so that one engine can power both proprotors if an engine failure occurs. In the event of engine power loss, the proprotor gearbox associated with the failed engine receives power from the opposite engine through the interconnect drive system. That cross-wing shaft runs the entire span of the wing. It is the mechanical backbone of the aircraft's survival logic. One engine stops. The shaft transfers torque. The Osprey continues flying. For a man-pads operator on the ground, this is a deeply unpleasant engineering fact. The shot that would kill a conventional helicopter may not kill this one. The basic aircraft design mission, low-altitude ingress to contested landing zones, was a significant driver of vulnerability reduction from the start. The V-22 has low visual, acoustic, and infrared signatures due to its design. The widely separated nacelles with integrated IR suppressors prevent plume impingement, eliminate turbine direct line of sight, and increase exhaust plume mixing. The aircraft is harder to see, harder to lock onto, and harder to kill than the platform it replaced. But what happens when a missile gets airborne anyway? V-22 Ospreys are equipped with the Northrop Grumman AN/AAQ-24V Directional Infrared Countermeasure System, the DIRCM. This is not a flare dispenser, it is an active laser system. The AN/AAQ-24 detects an incoming infrared-guided missile, tracks it autonomously, and fires a high-intensity laser beam directly into the missile's seeker head, blinding the guidance system before it can reach the aircraft. The DIRCM operates in the time between the moment the seeker locks and the moment the warhead arrives. It is a weapon that fires light at a weapon that flies fire, and it does it faster than any crew member can react. Combined with the AN/AAR-47 missile warning system, 4 electro-optical sensors feeding continuous threat data to the cockpit, and the AN/ALE-47 countermeasures dispenser for chaff and flares, the V-22 carries a layered electronic self-defense suite that most dedicated attack aircraft would not be embarrassed by. Put all of it together and describe what an enemy commander is facing. An aircraft that appears without warning from a direction outside the expected threat axis, that moves twice as fast as anything else in its weight class, that can land in a clearing the size of a tennis court, offload 24 combat-loaded Marines, and be wheels up again in under 2 minutes, that carries its own active missile defense, that continues flying after losing an engine. With its range, the Osprey can fly around threats rather than through them, giving commanders greater flexibility during sorties. There is no fixed template for defending against it. The predictive calculus that an enemy S-2 uses to position air defense assets assumes the aircraft will come from a predictable direction, at a predictable speed, within a predictable range. The Osprey invalidates each of those assumptions simultaneously. That is what makes it a tactical nightmare. Not any single capability in isolation. The combination, the compound effect of speed, range, vertical access, survivability, and self-defense layered onto a single airframe. This is not a perfect aircraft. A fatal accident in December 2023 led the fleet to be grounded until March 2024. The Osprey's flight characteristics in certain edge cases, particularly vortex ring state during aggressive low-speed descent, demand disciplined aircrew training in ways that conventional helicopters do not, and the cost per airframe is significant. These are realities. But the question was never whether the V-22 is flawless. The question is what it can do that nothing else can. No helicopter matches its speed. No fixed-wing aircraft hovers over a contested clearing and waits for the team. Unlike any aircraft before it, the V-22 blends the vertical flight capabilities of helicopters with the speed, range, altitude, and endurance of fixed-wing transports. That combination has not been replicated by any other production aircraft on Earth. The enemy does not fear the Osprey because it is imposing on a flight line. They fear it because of what it implies, that the perimeter they built, the radar coverage they positioned, the threat envelopes they calculated, all of it was designed against a set of aircraft that this machine no longer resembles. Somewhere over a dark coastline tonight, a V-22 is running at 275 knots, 300 feet above the water, and nobody on the ground has any idea it is there. That is the point.